We are starting chapter 4. So there will be two parts in chapter 4. It's devoted to expand power series into continued fraction. Or equivalently, if you know the moment, to compute the BK lambda k of the three-term linear recurrence relation. So I will give 4 different ways to compute this BK lambda k. There is 2 classical ways. There is explicit formula for BK lambda k in terms of determinant, Hankel determinant. There is also a numerical analysis, a well-known algorithm, which is called the QD algorithm, QND for quotient difference algorithm. And I will start today with a direct algorithm once you know that the BK lambda k are given by the sum of the weight of the Motzkin path, then there is some direct algorithm from the path. And I will finish next time, chapter 4b, with a beautiful Ramanujan formula, which give a way to compute the lambda k in case of a still-just continued fraction. So BK equals 0, and there is a nice way. And we will give a bijective proof of this Ramanujan algorithm with involution, which is very close to all the bijective proof with involution we have given in this class. So first, a very simple way to compute the BK lambda k. So you know the moment. You give me a sequence of moment mu n, and you are looking for computing the BK lambda k from the interpretation with weighted Motzkin path. So in fact, from the path, you can see that if you know the mu n, then there is a unique sequence of BK lambda k such that the sum of the weight of all the Motzkin paths of length n is going to be exactly the mu n. So suppose the algorithm, suppose you know all the BK lambda k for k less or equal to n minus 1. So suppose you know all this coefficient involved in this set of paths. So suppose you know the lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n minus 1. You know b0, etc. until bn minus 1. And then you want to compute lambda n. So in fact, you see the sum of the weight of all these paths is going to be mu to n, the moment index to n. So this moment, mu to n, is first there is the sum, this weight, lambda 1, lambda n, which is exactly the sum of the weight of this unique path touching the level n. So this path touching the level n is weighted lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n. So mu to n must be this path plus all the Motzkin paths which are below the level n minus 1. So if you know all this weight, all this BK lambda k for k less or equal to n minus 1, so you know this quantity, and then you know mu to n, so from this equation you can get lambda n. But you see there is to get lambda n, there is a division. You have to divide this minus this by lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n minus 1. So the algorithm will work as soon as each lambda k is non-zero. If lambda k becomes a certain n 0, then you stop, the algorithm stop, and in fact, your Jacobi continued fraction is reduced to a rational fraction. It's reduced to one of these conversions. So this was the first step. I compute lambda n with this equation. Now I have to compute bn. So bn, in fact, you take this path. There is a unique path of length 2n plus 1, which involve bn. So lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n, I know them already from the previous step. And then I write that the moment mu to n plus 1, which is given, the sequence of moment, is going to be this unique path having a unique e step at level n. So this unique path here, this is the weight of this unique path, plus all the other paths. So it's all possible Motzkin paths. Maybe they touch the level n, but they don't have an e step at level n. So all these Motzkin paths, I already know the weight, because it's involved only b0 until bn minus 1, and lambda 1, lambda 2 until lambda n, which I already know. So from this equation, you get the bn. So it's a way to compute recursively, knowing the sequence of moment, to compute recursively all the BK lambda k. And the algorithm will work to infinity if each time you have some lambda k which are non-zero. So next time maybe I will give a more precise algorithm to compare with the QD algorithm and to know how many division, multiplication, etc. you are doing. And in the QD algorithm, the number of division, which is dramatic to divide, if it's very small number, then the algorithm is not stable. So for the QD algorithm, you have a quadratic number of division. In this algorithm, there is a linear number of division. So maybe it's much more efficient. But at that time in numerical analysis, nobody knows at that time that the moments was the sum of the weight of all Motzkin paths. It was well known by commentaries, but maybe not very well used by numerical analysis. So you see, this is a proof that BK lambda k, if you know the moment, there is at most 1 second of BK lambda k which realize the moments. So there is at most 1 second of three. You have the 3 terms linear recurrence relation for the orthogonal polynomial. Knowing the moment, you can get the 3-term linear recurrence relation for the orthogonal polynomial as soon as its lambda k is non-zero. So second part of this lecture, it's to give explicit formula for the BK lambda k, and this is very well known using a Hankel determinant. So what is the Hankel determinant? You get h of a secant mu n. You take any secant mu n, which will be the sequence of moment, and you consider this infinite matrix. The term ij is mu I plus j in row I and column j, starting from mu 0. I start with column 0 and row 0, and the Hankel determinant is any minor of this matrix. And then we will use high use of the so-called LGV lemma, that such determinant, Hankel determinant, will be interpreted by configuration of non-intersecting paths. Also, Hankel, sometimes you can see some Toeplitz matrix. You have a secant Cn, and the coefficient of ij is Ci minus j, but up to a sign, if you make some permutation of the row and column, the Toeplitz matrix is the same as the Hankel matrix up to the sign of minus 1 power something. So first, I need to recall use the LGV lemma. So this was done in part 1, chapter 5a, slides 3 to 28. So maybe in this room everybody knows the LGV lemma, but because each course is supposed to be independent, 1, 2, 3, 4, so I will repeat the main fact about LGV lemma. So LGV lemma is a non-intersecting configuration of paths are related to computing a determinant. So this is a slide of the part 1. And so I take some paths in any set, a set S. So a path is a sequence of points, a path going from S0 to Sn. And there is a weight on this path. It's any weight. It's for any pair of vertices in the set S. Then I associate an element of a commutative ring. And the weight of the path will be the product of the weight of each elementary step. So S can be a graph, or it can be anything. It can be weighted path. It can be. So this is you have a path starting from S0, ending in Sn. The path has a length n, the number of elementary steps, and the weight is a product of each of this weight, which depend only on the pair S and T. So the LGV lemma is the following. You fix some starting point, A1, A2, AK, and you fix some ending point, B1, B2, BK. So all these points in red are distinct. All the points in blue are distinct, and maybe A1 can be equal to B1. We will see in this chapter that we need A1 equal B1 sometimes. And so you have the sequence of points, and then I can associate a matrix. Aij is the sum of the weight of all the paths going from Ai to Bj. And I suppose that this sum is finite. So I suppose there is no cycle in the path. We have seen in part 2. I think we have seen some extension of this LGV lemma when there is some cycle, and there was some forming and etc., some proposition more complicated. And so if you just write a definition of a determinant of the matrix K by K matrix Aij, and definition of the weight of the path, then this is just a definition applying all definitions. So the determinant of this matrix is sigma over a pair of permutation and some paths omega 1, omega 2, omega k. So you have -1 power the number of inversions of the permutation, product of the weight of all the paths v omega 1, omega 2, omega k, and each path omega I is going starting in AI, and ending point is B index sigma I. So this is typical the picture of this is the starting point, ending point, and the path can go in according to the permutation sigma. There is a plus or a minus according to the number of inversion, and the product of the weight of all the paths. So it's going to be the product of the weight of all the edges of all these paths in this picture. So I will need the LGV lemma in a general form. There is a LGV lemma very practical in a particular form, but the general form where there is still some permutation. So the general form is the following. This determinant of Aij with no condition on the path is sigma over all permutation, the same summation as before. It's exactly the same. But then it's reduced to a configuration of paths which are non-intersecting. This means that if you take any two paths, omega I, they have no common vertex. Maybe still there is still some the permutation, there is still plus or minus in front of the picture of the summation, but paths are non-intersecting.
There is no crossing condition.
The particular case when there is a crossing condition, which is very practical, but for this application to Hankel determinant and the classical formula, I will need this with some inversion. But you will see that, in fact, even if I need this, it will work as if it was with the crossing condition. As if there was no inversion, there was only the identity matrix. The particular case of the LGV lemma is when there is only the identity matrix. And so there is only plus here. There is no more plus or minus. And if the weights are positive, everything is positive. So I just remind you an idea of the proof is you take this set of all permutation, all possible paths for permutation Sn, all possible paths going from AI to B sigma I, and you take NC, the non-crossing configuration, and the idea is to find again a sign reversing involution which preserves the weight from this set E minus NC to E minus NC. So it's going to be involution which associate to any pair sigma and a K-play of paths, associate another permutation, another family of paths, such that the number of inversion is going to change of sign, and then the weight is preserved. So this so if I construct such involution, then it is clear that in this big summation, there is many terms of the same weight, but with a different sign in front of the permutation. We'll cancel 2 by 2, and what will remain is a non-crossing, non-intersecting path. The NC, the configuration, non-crossing configuration, but maybe it remains some permutation. And the idea of the proof is very simple. It's if you take any two paths which have a common vertex, then the idea of the proof is to switch after this common vertex, to switch the two paths. So the total weight of these two paths, it's a product of the weight of all edges. The edges does not change. What is changing is only the sign of the permutation, because there is a transposition. So the new permutation, the number of inversion will be plus or minus 1 number of inversion of the previous permutation. So the difficulty is to find a precise definition of this point. There is maybe, well, if you have some crossing configuration, there is maybe many different points, and so you have to choose a point. You have to choose a pair of two paths, omega I, omega j, which is going to be switched. And then if you apply again the involution phi, then it will choose again the same point, the same pair, and you switch again, and they will cancel 2 by 2. So this is the idea of the proof, and I will not go into the detail. This is the detail to choose a point, to choose a pair of paths, etc. This was done in part 1. So go back to the video of part 1, and there is a precise definition of P, precise definition of omega I or omega J. You switch, and then you get the proof of the LGV lemma. So this determinant is equal to the sum of the configuration of paths related which are not intersecting, and there is still a permutation, sigma. So each path omega I go from AI to B sigma I. So usually the LGV lemma is applied in a particular condition, the crossing condition. But as I say, I will need the general form for this Hankel determinant related to continued fraction or orthogonal polynomial. So now this is a particular form of the LGV lemma, the crossing condition. So suppose you have your point, starting points, they are totally ordered, A1, A2, AK, and ending point are B1, B2, BK. And suppose there exist two paths, omega and eta, the red path, the blue path, such that the weight of each of these paths is non-zero. The path omega starts from AI, go to Bj prime, and eta start from Aj and go to Bi prime. So you have I less than j, and I prime less than j prime. So you see, it's like a virtual switch, a virtual crossing. I don't claim in these pictures that the two paths are crossing, but the crossing condition says that if you have this configuration, then the two paths cross, intersect, means they have a common vertex. So in many cases, many applications of the lemma is this apply. So if the two paths have a common vertex, the crossing condition, then an immediate corollary is that from the general LGV lemma, then it's reduced, there is no permutation. The only permutation of the general is only the identity permutation. Because if there was a transposition, then we should be with the path in the configuration of these two paths. So they should have a common vertex, and the general lemma says that you don't have the paths are non-intersecting. So with the crossing condition, this is reduced to the identity permutation, and then you get this well-known form of the LGV lemma is that the determinant of Aij, if you have the crossing condition satisfied, is the sum over all configuration of paths, omega 1, omega 2, omega k. Omega I go from AI to Bi, because it's the only identity permutation, and you have the product of this. So it's in this big summation. This was a huge summation with n factorial permutation. And after the killing involution, they kill everybody. The n factorial permutation. Only one permutation survived, the identity permutation. And even for this identity permutation, only configuration of non-crossing paths are surviving. So I start with, like in part 1, with a very simple example. It's this matrix of binomial coefficients. The term ij is I plus j choose I, so it's a binomial coefficient written like this. Sometimes this is called the Fermat matrix. And so the term ij, I take the starting point, all these points 0, 0 until k, all these points 0 until k minus 1 over here. It's a k by k matrix. And then the weight of the path is, if you have two consecutive points going with an e step, you put a weight equal to 1. If you have two consecutive points with a north step, you put a weight equal to 1. And for any other pair of points in the square lattice, you put 0. So putting a weight 0 or 1 give you a way to define some path. And the sum of the weight of all the paths going from I to j is exactly the number of paths with only east and north elementary step. So this number of paths is exactly this binomial coefficient. And you can see easily that the crossing condition is satisfied. If you have a path like this, suppose you have another path starting from A prime here and going to J prime here. Suppose you have two paths going like this, and they may cross somewhere. It's because they go to the next neighbor. Each pass we are going to the next neighbor, usually the crossing condition is satisfied, and in 2D in only. In 3 dimensions, then you lose the crossing condition. And so the determinant of this is equal, this is a visual proof, is equal to 1. There is only one configuration of non-crossing paths. So this is an easy proof. Yes, Amri seems to be surprised. If you start from all this point and to all this point, and you have to construct non-crossing paths like this. So the only way to do this is this. This is a geometric proof that this is the only configuration, and the determinant is equal to 1. So it's a very easy calculus of determinant of binomial coefficient. So LGV lemma, well, LGV lemma, so this is explained in part 1, chapter 5a, the slide 24 to 28. This was in the book that Erdős was dreaming the proof from the book. There is a chapter 29 about lattice path and determinant. And Paul Erdős, he liked to talk about the book in which God maintains the perfect proof for mathematical theorem. And he say, you don't need to believe in God, but as a mathematician, you should believe in the book. And so this book was written by Ziegler and Egner, and they have a chapter about the LGV lemma. They explain what is a lemma. I will not insist. And this is why I call also flageolet the lemma. So all this is explained. I skip it. And Kratenthaler, he make an analysis. There is a long history of the LGV lemma. It appears, the essence of the lemma appear in many, many papers at the same time. And Kratenthaler, in this paper, he make an appendix, and he makes history, and he proposed to call this the Lindström-Gesell-Vienno lemma. And so this lemma, this theorem, is involved in many different parts in combinatorics. First time was by Lindström in matroid language, but very few people recognize that this was very useful. And maybe Gesell and myself, we make a popularization with this lemma. And Kratenthaler, in these two papers, this was a more general form of the lemma. But it's implicit also in statistical physics with Vichous-Walker, or in combinatorial chemistry. There was some matching, some in chemistry related to non-crossing paths. This is a famous Bers-Endes process also. It's the essence also in terms of probability, and in quantum mechanics also by De Gennes. There is a Slater determinant. So the philosophy is that non-crossing means taking a determinant under certain conditions. So this is the philosophy which appears in many, many different contexts. And our merit is just to popularize and to apply this to Young tableau, because at that time, when you made the paper with Gesell, it was not known that the Young tableau can be encoded by non-crossing paths. You encode each row by a path, and to say the columns are increasing or strictly increasing is equivalent to say the paths are non-crossing. So the paper appeared at the same time to popularize Lindström lemma, and also to apply this to Hook-Lens formula, Young tableau, everything. And then many, many papers appear. Hundreds of papers appear. And so we will use this also for computing the Bickel decay for the Hankel determinant. So Bickel decay, else you can consider this as orthogonal polynomial, computing the three-term linear recurrence relation, or else to expand a power series, the power series generative function of moment, as a Jacobi continued fraction. So these two are equivalent, as we have seen before. So some notation. Hankel determinant is any minor of this matrix. So if you take the indices, alpha 1, alpha 2, strictly increasing sequence, this is indices of the row. Beta 1, beta k, indices, strictly increasing sequence, indices of the column. And then I will denote by Hankel of alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha k, beta 1, beta 2, beta k, as a minor of this big matrix, infinite matrix, with the minor for row alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha k, and column beta 1, beta 2, beta k. So this will be his notation. I will use many times this notation. So I will put on the horizontal axis, I will define some point, AI equal at the 0 level, I will put minus alpha I, BI equal beta I 0, I in, it's BI, BJ, I between 1 and K, yes. And so the main lemma will be that the Hankel determinant, this Hankel determinant will be the sum of the weight of all configurations. So sigma is a configuration, a pair by a permutation. And omega 1, omega 2, omega k are some paths. Omega I is going from BAI to B sigma I. The paths are 2 by 2 disjoint. And I should say that the paths are Motzkin paths. So this determinant, this Hankel determinant, it's a sum of the weight of configuration of Motzkin paths, starting from this point, ending to this point, and the paths are 2 by 2 disjoint. And I need to keep the permutation. The crossing condition is not satisfied for the Motzkin path. I give you an example. So the example is the following. So here is a Hankel determinant of 1, 3, 4, 2, 4, 7. So I am taking the point A1, A2, A3. Here, B1, B2, B3. And you can check that the sum of the weight of all Motzkin paths going from AI to Bj is exactly the moment, the mu index I plus j. So here we have a permutation. The permutation is 1, 2, 3, go to 3, 1, 2. This path, you see, there is a... So the paths are non-intersecting. They have no common vertex. But you see what they are doing? Here there is a southeast step, so I call this a virtual crossing. It's not a crossing, should be when you have a common vertex. So these three paths are non-intersecting. So I am applying the LGV lemma in the general form, where the crossing condition is not satisfied. So that's the life. We will have to apply this lemma to get the formula. But don't worry, there will be no inversion, no permutation. That's the magic of this Hankel determinant. You see, virtual crossing of Motzkin paths. It's when you have this kind of things happening. And this is, I remind you, the LGV lemma in general form. Now, if I restrict to Dicke paths, then the crossing condition is satisfied. This is the Hankel determinant of 0 to 6 to 6, 8, with this starting point. So for Dicke paths, you can, this is interpreted by a configuration of non-crossing Dicke paths, and there is no permutation, so there is no, it's a plus, there is no -1 proper number of inversion. This is another example of Dicke paths. This Hankel determinant is interpreted by this, you see, it's so you have 4 points, A1, A2, A3, so you have to be careful in the order of the point. The blue point, the starting point, I label them from right to left, and the red point, I label them from left to right.
But how do you know that BKs are 0?
In case BK, no, in case of, in case, if I take Dicke paths, so if I am working with Stieltjes continued fraction, if I want to expand a power series in Stieltjes continued fraction, then I will have only the lambda k to compute, and the lambda k will come from this configuration, from this Hankel determinant.
Yeah, no, point is, how do you, by looking at the moments, you cannot tell that, right?
No, we cannot tell them. We will see when the moment for Stieltjes continued fraction, the moment mu2n is certain, and mu2n plus 1 is 0. For example, the moment of Hermite is the odd number. So when the moment have a mu2n even, mu2n plus 1, then we are working with, in fact, Dicke paths and Stieltjes continued fraction. Okay, so you can see here, you see that the term ij, any term here of this matrix is the sum of the weight of going from AI to Bj, sum of the weight of dict paths, of non-intersecting dict paths, and then I can have a complete interpretation of this. This determinant is the sum of the weight of all such configuration. So in standard notation, I will denote by delta n the determinant of all the first n row and column, so the determinant h of 0, 1 to n, 0, 1 to n. And then by a miracle, delta n will be interpreted by this configuration of non-crossing paths, of Motzkin non-crossing paths. This is Motzkin path. But because they are so tight, the starting point are consecutive, ending point are consecutive. It is so the starting point. This is B0. This is a blue start. This is starting point and ending point. There is a loop here. So they are so tight, so close together that there cannot be any permutation. You cannot interlace. You cannot make virtual crossing. So you apply the general lemma with inversion number of permutation, and you show geometrically that there is no virtual crossing. So you can apply the lemma, LGV, as if it was the crossing condition was satisfied. So delta n is the sum of the weight of all such configuration. There is only one configuration, so it's a product of all this. And so we can get an explicit formula for lambda n. So this is an example. So delta n, I go back to the talk. So delta n is a product of all this, but take the ratio of delta n by delta n minus 1. Take the ratio of this configuration delta n divided by delta n minus 1, which is just the same configuration below the green path. If you take the ratio delta n divided by delta n minus 1, you get this weight. You get the product of lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n. So if you divide delta n divided by delta n minus 1, if you divide it by delta n minus 1 divided by n minus 2, you get exactly this. You get lambda n. So this gives you a formula. This gives you a formula for lambda n. So to say that lambda k is non-zero for every k is equivalent to say that the delta n are non-zero. So this gives you an explicit formula in terms of determinant of ratio, the B rapport, ratio of this divided by ratio of this. Or if you prefer, you can rewrite this like this. And so you can of course, the weight of this unique configuration is given, delta n is given by all this product. And so what I have proved bijectively, commutatorily with applying the LGV lemma general form, is that if you take, I suppose the ring is a field, you have a sequence of moment, and then there exists orthogonal polynomial having mu n as moment, if and only if all these determinants are non-zero. So this is a necessary and sufficient condition that there exists a sequence of orthogonal polynomial for a secant mu n. So at the beginning of chapter 0, I told you if mu 0, if the three first value of mu n is 1, 1, 1, if you put mu 0 equal 1, mu 1 equal 1, mu 2 equal 1, then of course there is a determinant is 0, and you have no orthogonal polynomial. So I can rewrite this proposition in other words. There exists a pair bk lambda k with lambda k difference of 0, such that the mu n is the sum of the weight of all Motzkin paths. To realize the moment, the mu n as the sum of Motzkin paths with bk lambda k non-zero is equivalent to say that all the determinants are 0.
But did we have some condition on positivity of lambda?
Here, no, there is no condition. It's just non-zero. So if lambda is positive, then all the delta n will be positive. So So it is very important. The positivity is, as soon as the weight are positive, then you have some positivity result. And Alan Sokal I put this in the reference. I've written a monograph of more than 200 pages on positivity of a quantum fraction, and he have a nice monograph. He's not finished. I don't know if he has still final form, but he studied all the positivity. Also, there is a gamma positivity. So many people are working on this positivity. A lot of positive results are explained by this positivity of path. As soon as there is no inversion in the permutation, as soon as you have a unique or sum of weight or configuration of paths, as soon as the BK lambda k are positive, then everything is positive. So we have seen in part 1, in chapter 1, the result of Stanton and the Medicis proving bijectively the Aske's theorem on the positivity in case the BK lambda k are positive and BK lambda k are increasing sequence, then the linearization coefficient, f for PKPL, so 3 polynomials, are positive. And for the classical Schaeffer polynomial, many of the linearization coefficients are positive coefficients. Or equivalently, in other words, there exists, if you prefer to work with quantum fraction instead of orthogonal polynomial, there exists BK lambda k with a lambda k non-zero, such that you can expand the mu n in Jacobi quantum fraction. So I don't say that, of course, sometimes the lambda k can be 0, and then the Jacobi quantum fraction will stop at this level. And then there is no more. So when you do the algorithm to compute the BK lambda k, as soon as you know the sequence mu n, as soon as one of the lambda k is 0, then all the other terms of the sequence are given by the rational fraction. So there is no other choice. The other term must coincide with the mu n, with what is the rational fraction you are given, stopping at level k when the lambda k equals 0. The BK? Now the next slide. The BK, you get this by this determinant. So I call key n. It is the same determinant starting from mu1, and you see you don't put the column between n plus n minus 1 and n plus 1. So key n is this uncle determinant. Maybe I make a mistake here. It should be mu0. So let's call. No, this is wrong here. It should be mu0. So let's take this formula. Key n is h, the uncle determinant of 0, 1, n minus 1, n. And here n minus 1, n plus 1. So if you translate this in terms of a non-crossing confusion of paths, this is the configuration of Motzkin path. Again, Motzkin path. So you see there is a hole here. It's the same as delta n, except that you move. You don't put the path here. And again, you can show that you can apply the LGV lemma as if the crossing condition was satisfied, even if it's not satisfied. So which means that in the general lemma, there is no permutation other than the identity permutation. So this is the key n. This is a configuration of paths. So there is many configuration of paths. So there is n configuration of such non-crossing paths. You have a choice of the east path at level k. It can be at level 0 or at level n, which means that key n is equal to delta n multiplied by the sum of all these blue paths. You see, the weight of such configuration is equal to, it's a delta n. The sum, when there is no is a step, is delta n multiplied by bk. And as you have to sum over all such configuration, so you get key n equal all possible way to put an is step multiplied by the remaining weight, which is delta n. And so you can write key n, this Hankel determinant is equal to this. Okay, why I'm repeating. And from this formula, then you get Bn, because Bn is key n divided by delta n minus key n minus 1 divided by delta n minus 1. Right. So again, to go from this formula to this one, you need the delta n non-zero. So this is a general, very classical formula, which are in classical orthogonal polynomial theory. You will see everywhere the computation of the lambda k bk from these two determinants, the determinant kn and the determinant delta n. So now in case of still just continuous fraction, we are going to work with Dick path, and we are going to give formula for the coefficient lambda k when I have only Dick path, I have no Motzkin path, I have no bk equals 0, and so I am working with still just continuous fraction. And for the orthogonal polynomial, it means that the moment of odd index are 0, moment mu, only moment of even index. Just think of the Laguerre polynomial, the Hermite polynomial, for example. So bk equals 0. So I can write mu to n equal nu n, a unique sequence, and this means that in fact the polynomial, the orthogonal polynomial, satisfies this relation. Like for the Hermite polynomial, Pn of minus x is minus 1 over n Pn of x. And so I am going to define nu n now, nu n, which was mu to n, the moment of even index, I call this nu n, is going to be the sum of the weight of all Dick paths. And I want to compute the lambda k. To realize the nu n, the sequence nu n, any sequence nu n can be realized as the sum of weight of Dick paths of length 2n. And I need to give explicit formula, I need these two determinants. So it is the same as before. I put a 0 to not to be confused with this one. So this is not used. This is the delta n of the previous delta n, h of 0, 1, n to 0, 1. And then I define this one when I start from 1, 1n, 1n. So I have two different determinants, Hankel determinant. So the first one, h is interpreted by this configuration of Dick path, of non-crossing Dick path, where I have a 0, I have a c. So here, if I have n, so this is a0, I start from row and column index 0. So the starting point is a0, ending point is b0 here. And I have n plus 1 point. I go from b0 to bn. And you can see that the weight here is lambda. There is an even number of southeast step. And so here it's lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 2n, if I have n point. So the maximum here is lambda 2n. And the second determinant, it's this one. Because I don't have the 0, 0. So I start from 1, 1, I start from this 2 point, a1, b1. And now the weight will be lambda 1, lambda 2 until lambda 2n minus 1. So I need these two determinants. If I want to, again, to take a ratio, a b-rapport, ratio of Hankel determinant, I need to distinguish, this is lambda 2n, and this is lambda 2n minus 1. So if you take the first one, and you divide by the weight of the configuration which is inside, you divide by the weight of this configuration, what you get is this. And so the ratio of these two determinants is lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 2n. Now if I take this determinant with the maximum lambda here is lambda 2n minus 1, if I divide by the weight of the inside configuration, I get this product, lambda 2, lambda 1, lambda 2n minus 1, which gives me this. So I have two formula. This ratio of these two determinants is this product, even number of lambda, and this ratio gives me an odd number of lambda. So again, by dividing the two ratio, you get lambda 2n. Lambda 2n is this divided by this. So lambda 2n is this ratio divided by this ratio. And lambda, I put 2n plus 1. So this replaces by 2n plus 1. And this is going to be this divided by this, which is this formula. So again, you get explicit formula for the lambda, but you have to distinguish odd and even, and you need two family of determinant. The delta, the usual delta for the Motzkin path, plus this one when you shift you by one everybody. Or if you prefer, you can these two determinants, you have explicit formula for this unique configuration. Like this. So as a corollary, if you take a sequence nu n, where nu n are element of a field, then there exists orthogonal polynomial with moment mu to n equal nu n, and mu to n plus 1 equals 0, if and only if these two sequences of determinants are non-zero. So this is the case of Stieltjes quantifraction, or the case of orthogonal polynomial with this condition, that only even moments are considered. Or in other words, there exists bk lambda k with lambda k non-zero, such that the nu n can be realized with some lambda k non-zero, if and only if these two family of determinants are non-zero. Or you can rewrite this in terms of there exists a sequence lambda k with lambda k non-zero, such that nu n can be expanded in Stieltjes quantifraction, if and only if you have these two family of determinants which are non-zero. So this is a very classical part of the theory of orthogonal polynomial. So usually we work with real number and lambda are positive. The measure in there, the integral is positive, definite, etc., etc. But you see, we only need to do this everything formally, in a formal way. And if you work with positivity, at the last moment you will put lambda k a real number, a positive number. But this is just the essence of the formal part. Is really you can go deep inside the combinatorics. So even there is another formula, a classical determinant formula, orthogonal polynomial can be defined by some determinant formula using Hankel determinant. This is a classical formula. And I will prove it using, again, a configuration of paths. So I take dn of x. See, you take the same delta n, the same Hankel determinant for the second mu n, but you replace the last row by 1 xn. I claim that the orthogonal polynomial are up to a factor which is Hankel determinant. This is exactly the formula for the orthogonal polynomial having moment mu n, and I'm going to prove this formula. So I take an AP between 1 and n, and I call A and P the coefficient of x power p in this determinant. Which means you take x power p, and you take the coefficient here. So you erase the last row, and this is a column index p, so that A and P is up to the sign, is minus power p, this Hankel determinant, which I'm going to interpret by non-crossing path. So I put some point, the starting point AI, from minus I 0 for all the I from 0 and minus 1, and I put the ending point, BI is I 0 for I if it's less than P, and then it's I plus 1 if I is between P and N. I give you the picture. Here is the interpretation. So see, in red, you have the starting point. All these 0, 1, 2, and this is all the index of the row in the big Hankel determinant. Index of column, one column is missing, which means there is a hole here. This point is not the ending point of a configuration. It's like if you're shifting from the delta n, the configuration, I am working with Motzkin path. So this is a non-crossing configuration of Motzkin path, which interprets this determinant. So you see now I have some virtual crossing. I am working with Motzkin path, and I have a permutation. I have a minus 1 power the inversion. And I want to prove that this is exactly the formula for the orthogonal polynomial itself. So the proof is the following. Here, the example is n equal 10, p equal 4. And here is a configuration zeta with a certain permutation. So you have a permutation here. These two paths, there is a transposition in the permutation. Here is A1 go to 1 go to 1, but here there is a transposition, here another transposition. So you have a permutation, family of paths omega 0, omega n minus 1. And so from the picture, you can say that omega I, any path at the beginning, any path starts with a sequence of northeast steps. So omega I is first you have I step. Omega I is the path number I. So there's I step going northeast, followed by I step going southeast, if I is between 0 and p minus 1. You see here p equal 4 here. So for all these paths here, for I less than p, strictly less than p, all these paths here, you go northeast I time, and then you go southeast I time. So for this path omega I, no problem. It's like if it was in the previous configuration for delta n. Then if I is between p and n, then omega I start with I northeast step, followed by a certain path omega prime I, and there is 3 types of paths. Maybe you go down I step southeast, this is type 1. Or maybe you go down I step southeast, but you have a blue step somewhere. Or maybe you go down I plus 1 southeast step and you have a northeast step somewhere. So this is a three possible, do I have a picture? Here, you see. So this is the first possible path. This is the second, there is no path. It should be the path can be with no step, no virtual crossing. It can be going northeast and then going southeast. But so you have 3 types. Here I have only 2 types, type 2 and type 3. And there is some condition that if you have with type 3, then if omega prime I is type 3, then omega I plus 1 as type 1. You see, if you have with this kind of path, omega I, if omega I is type 3, this is a type 3, you go to the northeast, and then the next one, omega I plus 1, is type 2. Type 1, sorry. Type 1 is go always southeast. Well, this is the geometry of the path. You have to think about it. You have certain lemma that if you have this kind of northeast step, then the next one, I claim that if omega I is like this, I claim the next step will always go southeast.
Oh, because there will be a gap.
So in other words, virtual crossing are only on a path and between they appear only between 2 consecutive paths. And omega I go from I to I plus 1, omega I plus 1. So you have only the transposition of the permutation for 2 consecutive paths. There is no other way to have a virtual crossing. Because the configuration is really packed here. There is just a hole. It's completely packed. There is just this hole here, which makes this. Of course, if you take a very general, as we have done an example before, then virtual crossing can appear anywhere. But here they appear only in 2 consecutive paths, omega I and omega I plus 1. And omega I is type 3, omega I plus 1 is type 1. This is type 2. And so you have this. So the permutation is such that, you see, sigma y for any I less than p, strictly less than p, you have a type, you have a sigma I equal I, and then if a path is of type 3, the next one is type 1, and then sigma I is I plus 1, and sigma I plus 1 equal to I. So this is my permutation, and now I can give explicit formula. So first, there is a bijection between such configuration and a pavage which give interpretation of the corresponding orthogonal polynomial. I have a bijection. You know, pavage is a Favart path. So here is my configuration, and I enlarge the right part. This is not important. I enlarge part here, you see, and then this is in this configuration of with sometime an E-step, sometime a virtual crossing. This configuration is in bijection with the Favart path. For each virtual crossing, you put a north-north step. For each E-step, you put a north step. And each time you have another type, you put this kind of thing. So, you know, Favart. It's maybe Favart path was like this in the previous lecture. So we have a bijection between this configuration interpreted by the Hankel determinant, the coefficient of A and P of x power P, and but we careful. And you know orthogonal polynomial, the weight is minus lambda k, is a -1 for each of this step, or each correspond to a dimers, and -1 for each of this step. So we have to look carefully if the sign -1 correspond, and it works perfectly. So the geometry is beautiful. So I go back to my determinant. This was the sum of all possible sigma with a permutation and path 2x2 disjoint and coefficient of paths. So you see this determinant, I have to take the sum. First, I have to take care of the sum of the path. Then I will take care of the inversion. So the sum of the weight of the path, this weight, in this configuration, is the weight of the delta n. Delta n is all the, when there is no, we've took all the south step without the blue and the red here. So I take the delta n, and the weight of the pavage, the weight of the Favart path, V of beta, which is exactly the weight which is going to define the orthogonal polynomial. And I have so when I take the weight of the pavage, sorry, I get confusion. The weight of the pavage, I put the -1 for each dimers and -1 for each monomers. So I have to put again a -1 for each monomers and a -1 for each dimers. The sum of the weight here is all positive. The product of the weight of all of the paths is -1 power the number of monomers plus the number of dimers. And here I should put the valuation beta which give of the pavage multiplied by -1 the total number of pieces. So I count twice the -1 monomers and twice -1 the dimers to get the orthogonal polynomial. And what remains is the delta n. And so I have to compute the number of inversion, but number of inversion of the permutation is exactly the number of virtual crossing, which is exactly the number of dimers.
What is P?
P was the,
In the right-hand side?
I am computing A and P. A and P is the coefficient of x power P in this big, A and P was equal to -1 power P, this Hankel determinant. And so, what is P? Where? Here?
Right-hand side.
This is the pavage, beta. So this is the orthogonal polynomial.
But where is P in the right-hand side?
Ah,
But in the pavage thing, OP is
yes, P has disappeared. So P,
should be
A and P,
specified in the pavage.
no, it should be A and P equal -1 power P. Sorry, it's a little confusing. I will correct the slide in. A and P is this, it's -1 P, this Hankel determinant. This is A and P, and the number of isolated points,
That's
the x power P, that's the number of isolated points, which is, and so A and P, this coefficient is sigma over the weight of the pavage. When I say the weight, it's each pieces is gives the orthogonal polynomial. So each monomers is minus bk, and each dimers is minus lambda k. There is a -1 here in each pavage. And so I should correct here there is a P. So this is sigma of Pavage having P isolated
But
point.
can you show the slide with the path where it's
Becomes the
clear?
Pavage.
Yeah, the path becomes the
Uh,
because I want to see how isolated.
Not this one guy.
Yes.
This one.
yes,
The
here.
isolated points.
So
See, the P is here, and the P is exactly the number of such
black.
black step of the Favart path.
Because
The
it has
P.
to move that path
How much
to
it
the
Yeah,
right.
yes. The P is exactly the number of isolated point of the Pavage, or number of this kind of step in the mirror image of the Favart path. And so you see that this is going to be destroyed by the number inversion, and this is going to be destroyed by the number of A, because the coefficient A and P here, the formula, you see, there is a -1 power P here. Or maybe -1 n minus P in my previous slide. I have to check, I have to correct. Maybe it's -1 n minus P here. Maybe I am wrong. Sorry for the confusion. But the main, the detail, I have to fix the detail, but the main thing is here that finally I have this proposition. Finally, the coefficient A and P is the sum of the weight of Pavage of delta n, and I have this proposition where dn equals this and delta n equals this. So you take this determinant in 1x power n and divided by this determinant, and you get an expression for the orthogonal polynomial. Any sequence of orthogonal polynomial with bk lambda k for the corresponding Jacobi continued fraction can be expressed like this. So of course there is classical proof by computation of determinant. There is classical proof, but this is the proof with path and with the general. In case there is a permutation with inversion and everything fit together to cancel the number of inversion which appear in the permutation. So sorry for there is a few mistakes in the slide. I will clear the slide. So this and then Favart path. So this is the idea of duality. So I just repeat. You see here you have a very high configuration on cross. And the whole propagate in the network, and you get what? Dual. Is going to be this Favart path. So the dual path is kind of like symmetric function. This is the elementary symmetric function. Such
You think the path for elementary are dual to the path?
yes, this is the blue paths are the homogeneous symmetric function, and the red path is the path for elementary symmetric function. Not only you have one path is a dual of a big configuration with a whole, but about duality of non-crossing configuration. In blue, you have a non-crossing configuration of homogeneous symmetric function, which give you the Jacobi Jacobi-Trudi formula, and in red you have the dual. You have the analog. You have the Trudi-Jacobi formula. And even so you have these two configuration superposition. What I have not done is
Gambielli formula is
Gambielli. Yes, Gambielli formula. In the first page of the math department in the institute, there is this beautiful non-crossing path. So the duality, you see, it's a general idea, And Pierre Lalonde has put a preprint here, I think I've never published, as in general to define the dual path and dual configuration of non-crossing paths. And so here, I go back to this very simple example. The Fermat matrix. Determinant is 1. I have a very tight configuration. And exercise, the inverse matrix of this is in classical book of cometrics, like the Comte book. The inverse of this matrix, the cofactor ij, is given by this formula. And you can give a geometric proof of this formula. Inversion matrix is taking the cofactor, a hole. You put a hole here in I, and you put a hole ij. So the hole propagate, you see. And the propagation of the hole is coded by two paths, a red and a blue, and they join on the diagonal. And you see, you get this formula. This is the blue and the red path, they join at a certain point, and this is exactly this formula. This binomial coefficient, this is exactly the dual path. When they join together, and this gives a geometric proof of this well-known formula. So this is a dual of two. I have put two holes. I am taking a cofactor. I am taking the inverse of the matrix. So another complement. It's again, there is some inversion of power series is related to Hankel determinant. And there is some formula which are used in the Padé approximant theory. So I mentioned in the general introduction Padé approximant in an extension of Coutu fraction. And Emmanuel Robles has given a beautiful thesis on the extension of all this to Padé approximant. It's a Padé table. And this is used in Padé approximant, the following formula. So let's denote this determinant. You have a sequence mu n. You have a generating function. And let's denote this determinant, f mn. This determinant, you see, it's a Toeplitz matrix now. So it's a determinant of this. Maybe in this kind of matrix, the index can be negative, and you put by convention mu I equals 0. So you can rewrite fmn as a Hankel determinant by moving the column, transposing column, and up to the sign you have a Hankel determinant. And now the question, if I take the inverse of f, g of t, I can also define the same analog determinant g and m. And there is a beautiful proposition that g and m up to the sign is exactly fmn. See, I repeat, here is fmn, this Toeplitz matrix, equal to a certain Hankel determinant. And they are related together by, you just transpose mmn up to the sign, and you go to the inverse. So I'm not going to prove this. It's, again, the proof is Hankel determinant. But the idea of the proof, it's, suppose I resist lambda k. And I'm going to reduce my function to the sum generating function for weighted Dicke path. So f of t is going to be f of t and some infinite sequence lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda k. And then I define the shift, a new function, the shift of f. I just replace lambda k by lambda k plus 1. And so I can write that this shift of the function up to lambda 1t is the sum of the weight of all primitive Dicke paths. See, because primitive Dicke paths, see, when you have a Dicke path, primitive Dicke path, you see, any Dicke path can be factorized in a sequence of primitive Dicke paths, prim or prime. It means that the Dicke paths never touch the x-axis except for the two extreme points. So any Dicke path is a unique way, a sequence of primitive Dicke paths. And if you take the weight of this primitive Dicke path above the red line, the weight is lambda 2, lambda 3, lambda 4. So it's just the weight of a regular path shifted by delta. It's exactly the same idea in the Flageolet fundamental lemma for the Jacobi function. We are taking Motzkin path. We write this as a product in a unique way, sequence of primitive Motzkin paths, and then we apply the symbolic calculus that if you know the generating function of something, u, then generating function of sequence of something is 1 over 1 minus u. So I can apply this here. So the generating function of f of t, see, is 1 over 1 minus generating function of sequence of primitive paths, which is a shift. So taking the inverse, you can write, taking the inverse of f, 1 over g is going to be this. So g is going to be related to the shift of the weight of f. And then you can deduce. So exercise proves the proposition. You have to prove this by using configuration, non-crossing, dict path, and prime dict path. You have to play with all this. Maybe it's not too easy to do this. You have to be careful, and the solution is in French. In this page of the monograph, I have written in 83. There is a beautiful picture in this monograph. This is a solution, you see. So here I am with n equals 6, m equals 2, and you see there is a red point at the starting point of the, and blue point, the ending point. Here there is nothing between this. I just keep this like this in the air. This is a symbol of the solution, which explain in this picture you get the two determinant, fmn and gnm. You work with dict path and prime dict path. So you have to imagine this. This is maybe not easy exercise, but with this picture you can get inspiration. And if you don't find, go back to the monograph in French. You can understand, even if you don't understand French, you can. This is a kind of exercise, geometric exercise. So we'll finish this session with some Hankel determinant, some beautiful Hankel determinant, not necessarily related to orthogonal polynomial. So there is this beautiful, if you take an equals this, the number of ternary tree, not binary tree, not the Catalan number, but this number, then Tam in 2001, he gave a very beautiful formula for delta n. This determinant delta n 0 is explicit formula. This is cyclically symmetric transpose complement plane partition. So I think last time I have made a compliment. I gave a compliment about alternating matrices, the beauty of all these alternating matrices, FPL, the plane partition, totally symmetric self-complementary plane partition. So this is a plane partition. I go fast just to show you that this is difficult Hankel determinant related to plane partition. This is cyclically symmetric plane partition. If you turn around, so it gives the same. There is a self-complementary plane partition. There is many beautiful results. And this can be done by related to Hankel determinant. This is deep combinatorics. I will not go further. And also, second beautiful determinant of Tam is this delta n1. For again, the same is a vertically symmetric alternating sign matrices. So alternating sign matrices is this kind of picture we have seen in part 2. It's in each row you have a sequence of blue and red. You start with the blue and blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. You finish with the blue, and each column the same. You start with the blue cell and you blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, and you finish with the blue. If there is no red cell, you have a permutation. So in fact, if you replace blue by 1, red by -1, and this by 0, then you get the classical definition of alternating sign matrices. It's matrix with 0, 1, and -1. And the sum in each column is equal to 1. The sum in each row is equal to 1. And the 1 and -1, the non-zero entry, alternate 1, -1, 1, -1, etc. So you get this beautiful determinant for vertically symmetric. There is symmetry to the vertically symmetric alternating matrices. There is some known formula, but also it can be viewed as a Hankel determinant. Some other example of Hankel determinant is a famous Aztec tiling. I have done this in part 1, chapter 5 of the course. So this is an Aztec diagram. And the Aztec tiling is you tile this diagram with some tile of length 2. They can be horizontal tile, vertical tile. And the problem was to find how many such tiling. There is a very beautiful formula. is 2 power something. So there is many proof of this classical result. And one possible proof is by using Hankel determinant. So there is a coding of this Aztec tiling with non-crossing configuration of paths. You start from this. This is the starting point on this lower part of each of these dimers. Ending point are this point here. And then when you cross a vertical dimers, you cross the dimers. If you have an horizontal dimer, you go straight like this. So you cross it. I am a vertical dimer, I cross it. So there is a bijection between Aztec tiling and configuration of such non-crossing paths. And this non-crossing path is more beautiful to extend them like this. This is the same. Such configuration of non-crossing paths are in bijection with such configuration of non-crossing paths. And now you get a Hankel determinant. This is exactly the Hankel determinant, delta n1 for gamma. Gamma is a valuation for Schroeder numbers. This is a Schroeder path. This is a Schroeder number. Here is a Schroeder number. And you get exactly the number of Aztec tiling is computing this determinant. Delta n1 in our notation, and gamma is a lambda k, is a gamma for the Schroeder number. And you see, so a kind of miracle, if you take this determinant of 2 by 2 number, you get 2 power. If you take this 3 by 3 determinant, if you compute it, you get 2 power 6. So it's incredible, this formula with Schroeder number Hankel determinant. But in fact, the proof, now we have all the ingredients to get the proof, because we had, if you take the moment to be this, then we know the expansion in quantum fraction of this beta. This is the number of Dicke paths with k peak, and so you have this valuation, lambda 2k equal 1, lambda 2k plus 1 equal beta. And we have seen that this beta distribution by all this bijection in part 1 can be expressed as this beta valuation of the Dicke path. So it's only you put a beta, each time is a southeast step of odd level, which explain this continuum fraction here, or which explain this. So this is a completely bijective explanation. And now a Schroeder path, we have seen that Schroeder path is just a Dicke path. You can keep the peak or delete the peak and replace it by a level like this. And so Schroeder path we have seen the expansion of serial configuration of Schroeder path. So in fact, these Schroeder paths are given by this weight when you work with Dicke path, beta equal 2. You have for each 2 choice. So this was the valuation for Schroeder path. And so this Hankel determinant is exactly this. This is a big Hankel determinant, you see. So you have a 2, you have a weight 2 for each gamma at an odd level, gamma 1, gamma 3, gamma 4. So if you compute the 2 power, the product of all these edges at odd level, then you get this number, 2 power. So this determinant with this valuation gamma given by the Schroeder number, 1 or 2, depending on the parity of the level, you get 2 power this, and so you get a proof, a nice proof of this formula, for the well-known formula for the number of tiling of the Aztec diagram. And I will finish with another beautiful Hankel determinant, another determinant which is a tiling. So let's take this graph. You see, you put some pentagon, a series of pentagon, and then you put some hexagon like this. So I call this H star index n and k. Here n equals 3 because there is 3 layers of such picture, and 2k equals 4. I finish with 4 hexagon. So the first row is a pentagon, and then hexagon, and then we want to count how many tiling is equivalent to perfect matching in graph. Aztec diagram, you can also see this as a graph, and the tile are edges in a perfect matching. So you want to have in this graph a set of 2 by 2 disjoint edges, and perfect means every vertex is covered by an edge. And then the number of such perfect matching is this beautiful formula. there is a product, and this was proved a long time ago by using a Hankel determinant, because this is exactly this Hankel determinant. So you have a Hankel determinant of Catalan number, which is going to be equal to this beautiful product, and which is going to be equal to this number of perfect matching of this strange graph with pentagon on the first row and hexagon on every. So this is the Hankel determinant. And so I will finish with a nice formula. This was the end, I think, of the epilogue of in part 1, when I finish with the festival of bijection. So here is a perfect matching, and here is a formula. And from this perfect matching here of this graph, you get this path with which is interpreted as a Pfaffian. You get a bijection like this. It's a Ising-like bijection. From this, you go to Young tableau with array column that's an even number, and then you apply Robinson-Schoenstatt in the general Knuth-Robinson-Schoenstatt in the Burge form with involution. You get this. From this, you get a series of paths which are touching. Then you turn them and get and separate the path. You take and then you get this Hankel determinant. You get the Dicke path. So this is the Hankel determinant, and to show that this is exactly this formula, you have to kind of this confusion of paths. You have to compress it. Compress, and we are going to have a rational weight. A rational weight are going to be this, the product of the rational weight. And this compression here, this step, is exactly the QD algorithm. So we will do this. The quotient different algorithm will prove this step here. Going from this Hankel determinant will be this by using the QD algorithm, the quotient different algorithm. So this will be the next chapter, 4b. I will start with the quotient difference algorithm, and then I will do the Ramanujan algorithm. And that's the end of this lecture. Thank you very much.